And of course, at the end of the day, what do we get out of all this investment on behalf of the taxpayers? We get a massive debt. Now, I'm not an expert into greyhounds, not involved in any way in the industry. I could count in two hands the amount of greyhound races I ever attended, mainly charity events. But reading the reports and listening to what was going on, and I think reading between the lines of what the new chief executive has had to say, it seems to me that there has been a totally deficient regulatory and integrity services during this period. And I had heard a lot of stories about what was going on, about tests and all sorts of different things that were going on and things not being pursued. And there were all sorts of allegations that even under the privilege of the House I wouldn't like to repeat some of them. But I think the Indecon report indicates total failure of the regulatory regime and also of all the integrity services. And again, I'm talking about enhanced new introduction of new and enhanced control measures in all regulatory processes and procedures. In particular, monitoring the use and misuse of substances in the racing greyhound, and so on and so on. So it seems to me that we're talking about a litany of failure.
I'd like to welcome the members of the board and staff here today, and I'd like to make a few points. In 2014, Board Indecon received 10.84 million in state funding. I discussed this matter with Minister Hayes, who has responsibility for Board Indecon, and he initiated the Indecon Report, which was due out early this year but eventually came out in the last few months. During that discussion, a lot of issues came up with regard to Board Indecon, a lot of issues that we had concern about. But when the report came out, in all honesty, the credibility of Board Indecon was shot dead. Because the report is horrendous in relation to not alone the financial situation within Board Indecon, but the governance within the whole area of the greyhound industry, the regulation within the greyhound industry, the whole issue of doping of dogs and the follow-up on that, the performance of the organisation as a business entity, and the procedures that are put in place and are in place by Board Indecon. Now, similar to the last, frankly, Chairman, I don't really believe that this can be turned around by what has been presented to us, both in these statements today and in the response from Board Indecon to the Indecon report. I don't actually believe that, and it's your job to convince me that it will actually happen. Because I bring everything back down to basics. And the basics are that people won't go to dog racing anymore because there's doping going on in it. And when there's doping found out, the investigations are not followed up.
Organisation which has seen a drastic, they're not my words, they're the words of the Indecon report, a drastic fall of 55.6% in revenues over the period in question. So the reason you're all here today is because the taxpayer is funding over €11 million into the industry up until this year, and that's going to increase next year. Now, one can argue whether it's right or wrong for the taxpayer to fund greyhound racing while there's children waiting for treatment in our public hospitals, and that's a debate for another day. But the question is, are we obtaining value for money? Is the corporate governance in the organisation which is receiving that funding up to scratch? Is the money which has been expended by the taxpayer bringing an output for the taxpayer? And the simple answer to that is no. And the Indecon report clearly highlights that. So, as I understand it, there are two types of tests available for the drugs. Both types are undertaken in the UK, an oil-based test and a water-based test. Can I ask, it's my understanding that only the water-based test is being carried out here in the Republic of Ireland. Can I understand, based on the Australian model, if I'm not mistaken, that is being used here. However, it would appear that when Irish dogs are being are going to England to race, and when they're tested, they're showing up predominantly positive for this particular drug because of the new testing methods that are in place in England. And that is, I mean, there's various examples which I can point you in the direction of, which I'm absolutely certain that you're aware of. For example, the disciplinary committee of the Great Britain Greyhound Board on the 16th of September this year had a hearing where professional trainer George Gibbonson was found in breach of UK rules. And basically, the outcome was that, in cautioning Mr Gibbonson, the disciplinary committee of the Great Britain Greyhound Board urged all trainers to exercise due diligence in assessing the drug status of greyhounds they purchased from Ireland. Why is that the case?
Deputy Landy, you raised a number of questions around about the sale of Harold's Cross, the decision to cut prize money, the issue surrounding artificial insemination, issues together, that the Harold's Cross track has been nominated for sale, and indeed there's a commitment within our response to Indecon that it will be ready for sale by the end of next year. Now, by ready for sale, I mean that we will in the meantime secure planning permission for the site, for the entire site, and that we will take it forward on that basis. You mentioned, Deputy Landy, the difficulties that are ongoing in terms of AI, and that clearly has been a significant issue that has been a priority for both myself and my colleague Hilary Ford. And we have proposals submitted and approved by the board, and I believe that are shortly to be approved by the Minister for Agriculture, which will clarify the position going forward and will also allow us the time to conduct a genetic study into the issue of straws, the ageing of straws, and indeed the impact on the greyhound on a long-term basis. So that has been dealt with.